was sitting like this with my gun in my mouth, getting ready to pull the trigger, and I looked across the desk, and there was a picture of my wife and kids, and I think God kind of smacked me in the back of the head as I looked at my kids, and he said, "What message are you going to send your kids if you take your life in Afghanistan?" I don't know how it is for other special operations forces. We have something called a Trident review board. And basically, if you do something so egregious that discredits the SEAL teams, or it's so dangerous that we feel like, hey, we don't want you around operating anymore, they can convene a Trident review board. The leadership and senior leaders of the team come together, they listen to the evidence, and then they say, hey, we're going to take your Trident, whatever's left in your contract, you'll go finish out your career in the regular Navy, and you can either stay, or most guys end up getting out. So that's what I was facing. I think it was September 26th, maybe, or a few days after that. But yeah, and I remember going back to my room, and none of the guys were talking to me, and interesting, because I can relate now so much to fire military law enforcement who come to the end of their career, whether willingly or unwillingly, something happened. We tie ourselves so tightly to the emblems and the badges and the units that we're a part of, that when you're faced unexpectedly with losing it, it's your entire identity. And that's how it was for me.
Yeah, that's your identity is tied to something that's temporal, and it's dangerous. It's great to be proud of those jobs and proud of being a SEAL and proud of being a firefighter or recon marine, but it's so dangerous when your identities.
Because I convinced myself in that moment that my life was over. If I didn't have that Trident, my life was over. And I, we're overseas. You have your guns with you everywhere you go. So, I was in my room in Bagram, put my pistol in my mouth, and was getting ready to blow my head off. And I was sitting like this with my gun in my mouth, getting ready to pull the trigger, and I looked across the desk, and there was a picture of my wife and kids, and I think God kind of smacked me in the back of the head as I looked at my kids, and he said, "What message are you going to send your kids if you take your life in Afghanistan?" And that shocked me enough to you need to go get help. So I put my gun away. I went and I met with a special force chaplain, and he talked some sense into me. And he said, "Hey, I don't think they're going to take your Trident." He said, but no matter what, he said, you kind of got a new beginning ahead of you. You're going to have to figure out this new path to, you've messed up. That may be even harder than if they did. And he was right. So the next day they didn't. I owe my career to my commanding officer to this day. Big shout out to him, Kemp Perro, because here is a guy who was in charge of Operation Red Wings, who lost all these guys. The biggest loss of life NSW had sustained until Extortion 17 happened 6 years later. None of us got to go home, and especially the CO didn't get to go home and mourn these guys. He had to continue to work and be focused on this deployment. So I guarantee the last thing he wanted to do was deal with this knucklehead, young ensign making bad decisions on the battlefield. And I think the easiest decision as a leader would have been, you're out of here.
Right.
And I often talk about this in leadership. Humans, we make mistakes, man. So was it truly malicious, or was it just immaturity and ignorance? And I think he saw it was immaturity and ignorance, and saw that I had the potential to be a good leader and believed in me, and went against a lot of the senior enlisted leaders who said, get rid of this guy.
Yeah.
So, but that started a whole new journey. So that was kind of my Afghanistan deployment.
When that was all, the dust settled from that, and you kept your Trident, and that was all put to bed, did you have to change commands, or you stayed in that team?
No, I stayed not in that troop. They moved me to a new troop, which was very difficult. They polled the guys, and they said, who do you want to serve with? Who do you not want to serve with? And I was number one on the list that they didn't want to serve with. So
now you have to rebuild yourself.
It's true. And I often talk about that, in a lot of the talks that I give. How do you reestablish credibility? How do you build back reputations if you messed up? And the reality is it's never too late. I don't care how old you are. I don't care what's happening in your life. It's never too late. And I think the greatest advice I was given, we got home in October, and I'll be honest, I drank my way through the holidays. I think mourning the loss of friends and mourning the loss of I've had a lot of success in my life, and I recognize it could be gone in a second, and I'm okay with that. If God decides, hey, I'm going to take all this away, I still have my family. I still have this life, no matter what rock bottom you have the ability to climb out. It's not too late. That's been a big motto of mine. So I'm thankful for what I have, but I think that's what it teaches you. If you've hit rock bottom, you now know where it is and you have the ability to go back. And I think, that's part of an overcome mindset that I teach on. Like, hey, everything in your life could go away in a second. And if you honestly think that could never happen, or you're living your life in that manner, you're setting yourself up for failure and challenges.
Hey guys, 10 years ago, I had found myself in a position to where investing in Mighty Oaks and all the different things I'm involved in, I had found myself not prepared for retirement. And I went to my friend Ryan Wheelis at Allied Wealth. I'm so happy with the results for me that I asked him to partner with this show, and he is a partner of this show now. So if you're like me and you need someone to help you with your retirement, with your investments, with just your overall wealth management, go to alliedwealth.com and meet Ryan and his team to get you set up.